press the buttons on. There we go. We're recording. Great. So what we want to do first is to show you how you can ask questions. So if everyone can just look at their little panel thing, you'll see a chat box. You can individually chat me. You can say hi. Go ahead and test it out and chat hi to me, or tell me that you've hit your minimum or you're above and beyond. You can chat the whole group, or you can chat privately. This is a great way for us to kind of monitor questions as we go through. You're all muted right now, so we won't be able to hear you. If you want to actually ask a question, when we go through all this with Judy, you can raise your hand. So there's an actual way to raise your hand. You'll see that little hand there. And Arjun, you already know how to use the chat box. That's awesome. So it's pretty simple. John, you raised your hand. That's awesome. And what's another feature for you guys? It's pretty much it. If you have to jump off because your boss came into the office, for those West Coast people, or you're heading home or whatever it may be, don't worry, we're recording this and we'll put the link up right after the webinar. So any questions you want to send forward now, please go ahead and shoot them over to me, so I have them all queued up, ready to ask as Judy goes through things. As you think of things, as Judy's talking, I will ask her questions as the pauses come through. But that's kind of the housekeeping stuff for the actual webinar. In terms of Smile Train, we are 2.5 weeks away. We have our fundraising deadline for the minimum amount on November 8th. Now, what that means is if you are below that 5,000, then you need to hit that by November 8th. If you're having any issues or you're worried about it, let us know now versus on November 7th and sending Lindsay, Christina, and myself an email panicking. We do not put any charges through unless we have talked to you, and that all happens on November 9th, that Monday. So please do not panic. Your alumni ambassadors, those are the people that you've gotten emails from, might not know who they are. Those people are tasked with helping you. So you can bug them as much as you want, ask them a million questions about fundraising. They will help you. A few of them have written fundraising letters for their participants. So anything you need help in, we can actually help you with. So that's kind of the end part on my fundraising. We are almost at $600,000, so we are on track to hit our goal from last year, which was 800,000. So it's very, very exciting. And we did put that last fundraising incentive for our number 2 fundraiser, a trip to Ethiopia to visit one of our partners' hospitals and meet some of the families and actually go on some pretty cool excursions in Ethiopia. So that whole trip is planned for you, and all the travel is included, and lodging and meals. So pretty cool incentive for our number 2 fundraiser. And right now that number 2 person is Lisa, who's at just over 9,000. So that's really all I have. Earl is on the line, so I'm going to hand it over to him and have him introduce our speaker for tonight.
Excellent. Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's doing great. We have, like Sarah said, this really is one of the great perks, and you know, I'll flatter Judy a little bit. She did such a great job with our group last year, and truly runs one of the great races in the Ironman circuit. So we're really fortunate not only to have her here to chat with us, but also we're just pretty fortunate just to be racing at one of her races. You know, last year, as I've said to people many times through the season, Arizona, it was my first experience with Ironman Arizona, and I was really blown away, not just by the quality of the experience that the Smile Train racers had, but by the organization and the way that the team ran the event. I've been to a lot of Ironman races in my time, and it was definitely one of the best that I've been to. So I'm really excited to introduce Judy. She has been the race director for a number of years now. She is well-versed in everything Ironman. So what I'd like to do, and maybe the best way to usually do something like this, is to have Judy kind of take us through a little bit of a presentation, nothing formal because I don't want to scare you, Judy, but basically, you know, the best way to go is the way that we're all thinking about it, which is going by a schedule. You know, kind of what to expect when you arrive in Arizona, some of the key things or rules that we need to make sure everyone's aware of as far as registering and time like that. And then maybe just a little timeline through the weekend from your eye as the race director. That would be maybe a great way to start. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So I hand it over, ladies and gentlemen. I will hand it over to Judy Stowers, the race director for Ironman Arizona.
Thank you, and thank you for that introduction, and welcome to everybody who's participating. Excited to have everybody here in Arizona, and it's a little terrifying that you say that it's only 2.5 weeks away. So we're in good shape, but definitely some work to be done before everybody arrives.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Judy, do you want, I have the race maps and all that stuff, so as you go along I can pull things up, but did you want to do video or?
Well, I was just trying to figure out how to do that on my computer. Oh, there we go. I can. I don't know if that's lucky for me or lucky for you, or neither.
Well, then everyone will know who you are on race weekend.
There you go.
There you are.
Well, yeah. My beautiful picture of Dreamland behind me.
Awesome.
So when everybody arrives, the main thing that you want to do is make sure that you get checked in. Athlete check-in is only on Thursday and Friday, so you want to just make sure that you plan accordingly with all your travel schedules. And I don't know if Smile Train organizes all of that or how that particular piece is played on your end, but certainly we encourage everybody to be there on Thursday or Friday to make sure that you're checked in and ready to go, and just make sure that your nerves are taken care of by getting all of that piece taken care of. On Friday night, we have our welcome ceremony, which will have a live band playing from 5:30 to 6:30, and then our actual ceremony with Mike Riley from 6:30 to 7:30. And it just gives everybody an opportunity to kind of sit on the grass and have a casual evening listening to some music and kind of highlighting some of the pieces of our event here in Arizona. And every event has different aspects of it, and we're really fortunate to have some unique partnerships with the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community, which you'll see on your bike ride. Most of our bike course goes through their land, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But so we just kind of bring everybody together and just have a nice, relaxed evening and have fun together. Part of your athlete registration packet for this particular race is what we call the Dine Around program. So in your race package, you're going to get a ticket that allows you to eat at about 45 different restaurant options in Tempe here, and can cater to any kind of diet restrictions that you may or may not have. So utilize that. You're welcome to use it anytime from Thursday through Monday, and it's good for $25 towards your meal. So make sure that you don't get out of town without using it. We've got some awesome restaurants, a lot of new restaurants since last year, so there's options for everybody on that. The meat and potatoes of what you probably want to know are going into Saturday. So Saturday morning we have a kids race, so anybody bringing family members can enter their kids into the kids race, and that is at 8:30 on Saturday morning, and that's sponsored by United Healthcare. And it's a 1 mile run, or for the little ones, we have a 1/4 mile option as well. And that's just right there in Tempe Beach Park. You can get your kids registered either online or in the park when you're there for athlete registration on Thursday and Friday. That's also available Saturday morning. And then our practice swim. Something to note on the practice swim is it's from 9 to 11 on Saturday morning. You're absolutely required to have your timing chip with you, wearing it. We won't let you in the water without it. We chip everybody in and chip everybody out, and it's our safety measure and our liability to make sure that we've accounted for all the athletes that get in the water. There's always a few that try to sneak in there, and we are really strict about not letting people in the water that aren't supposed to be. So your practice swim is from 9 to 11 a.m. on Saturday. We don't let any athletes in the water after 10:45. So if you're planning to go down and do a practice swim, getting used to the water and how to sight off of our particular lake walls, then Saturday's a really great option. But just plan accordingly so that you're not showing up at 10:45 thinking that you can get into the water, because we will not let you into the water. And then after the practice swim from 10 to 3 is when you'll come down to the park, bring your bike and all of your gear bags. That's your run gear bag and your biking gear bag. Your special needs bags will actually come on Sunday morning. We'll talk about that in a minute. But your bike gear bag is going to have your helmet and your shoes and everything that you need for the bike ride in that bike bag, and then your run bag, your run visor, your run shoes, your socks, anything that you might want for the run course itself will go into that run bag. So your run bag, your bike bag, and your bicycle all have to be checked in on Saturday between 10 and 3. And once you do that, you're going to go home and kick up your feet for a few hours so that you can be ready for Sunday morning. Does anybody have any questions on anything leading up to race day?
All right, I'm just going to scroll through and see what I can find.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions about the practice swim. One was, will the buoys be in place? Arjun asked if all the buoys are in place for the practice swim.
So we keep the practice swim in a very small area. Some of the buoys will be placed. The entire course will not be placed. You will get a feel for, it's about 400 or 500 meters that they set up, so you can do circles around those if you'd like. But you won't be able to do, you know, a mile or anything like that. So it's just designed to get a feel for the water and do some sighting and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And just to note, Judy, just may you clarify, when the layout of the swim course, it's pretty straightforward. It's different though than last year, correct?
Correct.
But as far as like sighting along it, if you know, my recommendation is always go for a short jog the day before the race or on Friday. You can see the whole course. I mean, it's all just right along, straight up, straight back along the river, correct?
Absolutely.
Or the town lake.
Yeah, and there's markers in place prior to Saturday's practice swim. They just set the big buoys out on Sunday morning, just to make sure that they're ready to go for everybody. So they go out there early Sunday morning and set the final pieces of the bike swim course.
Great, perfect. Okay.
Any other questions on that?
I think that takes us through the lead up. Sarah, is that all you got?
I think so. I can pull up either the race guide or the swim, whatever's easier to kind of have visually for as you go through race day, Judy.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move to race day. And if you want to put the swim map up there.
Yep.
So transition opens at 5 a.m. on race morning, which means that at 5 a.m. we'll let you into where your bike is. And so you'll be able to access your bike, you'll be able to access your gear bag. So anything that you've left there on, you know, Saturday, you'll still have access to on race morning. So just keep that in mind. You know, if you have special fluids or anything like that that you want for race day, you can bring those in on race morning. You'll get body marked. You'll basically just get ready for your day when you arrive into transition. If your tires need any air or anything like that, we have techs in transition that will help you with any bike needs that you might have at that point. We'll also have a water fill station where you can fill up water bottles and that sort of thing. The changing tents will be available to you, so pretty much anything that's inside of transition is available to you on race morning before the race starts. Transition will close at 6:30, meaning all athletes will be out of transition by 6:30, and we will have created kind of a holding tank for everybody, because this is our first year doing what we call a rolling start. And I'm sure many of you are familiar and have read, you know, that we've always had a mass start here in Arizona, so this is a new venture for us, but really a point of safety for all of the athletes in going to this format. So the rolling start, you're going to self-seed yourself according to what your predicted swim time is. We'll have volunteers that are going to hold up signs in 10-minute increments. So it's going to be an hour and under, an hour and 10, an hour to hour and 10, hour and 10 to hour and 20. When we get to an hour and 30 minutes, we'll go to 15-minute increments. So you'll line yourself up according to what you think your swim time is going to be. There's a set of stairs that lead you into the water. And again, on Saturday, if you go down for the practice swim, you'll get a really good feel for what that's like getting both down the stairs and back up so that you can get in and out of the lake. We'll swim in a counterclockwise direction. That swim course goes all the way down under the rural street bridge and then makes a left, crosses a couple hundred yards, and then another left and comes all the way back down. A couple of pointers on the swim. Our staff is very good at measuring a precise course. If you're not very good at swimming straight, you're going to swim farther than 2.4 miles. One way to kind of get a feel for this particular course is to sight off of the wall of Tempe Town Lake. So there's a concrete wall on the south side of the lake, which you see on the kind of the bottom portion of the picture there. And the buoy line is set off of that wall, meaning that it's always going to be the same distance. So if you keep an eye on that and you know where the buoys are on your left-hand side, you're going to swim a straight course. So keep that in mind. Maybe during the practice swim, kind of see what that looks like. Get some other cues for yourself. Everybody sights a little bit differently, so just know what that looks like for you, and you'll swim 2.4 miles instead of 2.6. The rolling start, again, is just a safety measure for both you as an athlete and those athletes that are around you. There are what we call floating stations out there, so if there's any time that you need to take a break or you need to adjust a wetsuit or something like that, you can pause at any one of those areas if you need to. We will also have over 100 volunteers out on the water in kayaks, stand-up paddle boards, and that sort of thing for anybody to be able to utilize as assistance if necessary. They can't help you move forward at all, but they can certainly be there to help support you if you need to stop for any reason along that. Once you get back to the stairs, you're going to go out of the water and back into transition. It'll lead you up behind the change tents, and then you'll grab your gear bag, your bike gear bag, and into the change tent. And everybody has to go through the change tent. There's no exceptions to that. And then once you've changed or you're ready to go out onto the bike, you'll go into transition. Volunteers will help you as much as they can to get your bike, and then you'll head out onto the 3-loop bike course. Are there any questions about the swim portion? No questions?
Hold on.
Hold on, Judy. There's a couple here. Let me just pull them up. Sorry.
You're okay. The little delays, I'm not quite sure.
I know. So we covered the swim, the pens, or whether they're in pens in the sample time groups. So we got that. About how many we'll get in the water at the same time. So here we go. A couple of things. So the tip about sighting, can you just repeat a little bit, because there's a couple of questions about sighting on the way out and on the return.
On the way out, you can sight off of that cement wall. They set the buoy line according to it. So the actual lake is kind of curved in the way that they built it. It is a man-made lake. Mm-hmm. So they've made some curves in that. But when Justin, our swim course director, sets that course, he measures everything off of the wall so that it stays in a straight line. So as long as you keep sighting off of that wall and you know where you're at in relationship to the wall and the buoys on your left-hand side, you'll swim in a straight line. Mm-hmm. On the north side of the lake, so on your return trip, you'll have to find what works best for you in terms of sighting, because there's not a cement wall that you'll be able to follow. So there's a marina, and then there's some beaches, and there is some cement wall, but it's a little bit different on the north side of the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to hop in. There was a question about location of porta potties, which obviously is an important question before they hop in the water. One thing I just want to say is where we've been given our hospitality tent, which is diagonal from where you enter in for the swim, we will have our own porta potties. So if you need to use the porta potty right before the swim, come over to the Smile Train line. It'll probably be a lot shorter.
Yeah, the one trick to that, if it's after 6:30, is not going to be super accessible to athletes because they'll be in a holding pen and there's not an exit point for them. So try to use the bathroom before 6:30. Otherwise, the lake is already dirty and everybody pees in their wetsuit anyway. So it's just a fact of swimming in a wetsuit.
Right.
So
Awesome.
There are porta potties in transition itself. A whole line of them in the front of transition. So where you see on the map where it says transition, in the front part of that, there's a whole, I think I have 30 porta potties there. And then behind the change tents, there's a whole nother bank. And then all throughout the park. So plenty of spots. I've increased the porta potty numbers this year. So hopefully we won't have any problems with you finding a place to use the bathroom. Please make sure you use a bathroom and don't use the landscape. It happens.
I'm sure.
Yes.
Along those lines of etiquette, just a quick question was in here about, actually I might hold this one, or maybe it's a good lead in to transitions. I think we've got most of the questions. And folks, if we miss a question along the way, please just, shoot us a message and we'll make sure we recap things at the end as well. But kind of maybe a transition into the transition area, there's a question about, can we totally undress in the change tent?
Absolutely. Men have a men's tent and women have a women's tent, so you're only in there with your own gender, and really anything goes. So if you need to completely undress, then that's totally up to you. There's volunteers in there that are there to help you. They're not staring at you. They're not trying to be weird about anything, but they're there to help and support you with however you need to manage that piece of your day. So certainly some people completely change and others don't. It's really just a personal preference, but you are in a very secure private area, gender-based.
Okay, I think that's it.
Great. All right, so let's move on.
Okay, so you want to put the bike course map up there? So the 3-loop bike course starts there at the lake, and then we wind all the way out onto Highway 87, which is known as the B line, up to Shea Boulevard and back. And you're going to do that 3 times. You're going to wind through Tempe and then out onto the reservation. So there's about 4 miles each direction that you're actually on, like in their tribe land, and the roads are a little less maintained, a little less well maintained, but they're very rideable. And then you'll head out onto the highway, which was just paved maybe 2 years ago. So it's a very nice riding surface. We've got 4 aid stations out on the course for you that you're welcome to hit at any point when you're out there on the course. And they will have all of the usual Gatorade and water, and then goos and things like that, so that you have nutrition out on the course if you'd like to take advantage of that. One thing, especially for the first timers, is it's a very compact course. So we have a lot of athletes in a very small amount of space, and so just as a courtesy, anytime you're riding, just make sure that you're staying to the right as much as possible so that faster athletes have the opportunity to pass you. And just as normal rules state, like in your athlete guide, just try to make sure that when you do pass that you move back over as soon as possible. Again, each direction on that Beeline highway serves as one way. So when you're going northbound on the Beeline, you're basically in the slow lane. So we're doing some counterflow traffic there. So always stay on your side of the road. Don't cross over the white lines. Make sure that you're just being courteous to the people that are around you, because this race does have a lot of first-timers, which we absolutely love having. It just becomes a lot more important for you to be aware of your surroundings, so that when you're going through aid stations or passing other athletes, that everything is done in a safe manner and that we don't have accidents out there on race day. Anything on the bike course?
Okay, let me check. I don't see anything. Does anyone have any questions on the bike?
It's fairly straightforward. I will say that we do have, and I guess I can back up for just a second and say that in the swim, your time cutoff is still 2 hours and 20 minutes, regardless of where you start in that rolling start. And we do hold our same cutoffs for the bike that we've had in years past, even moving to this format, which means that you have to have started your third lap by 3 o'clock. You have to be at the turnaround up at Shea Boulevard, up at the far turnaround, by 4:15, and back to transition by 5:30. So if you miss any of those cutoffs, we will have to take your timing chip and call it a day for you. So just be aware of those time cutoffs. Everything is listed in your athlete guide. So if you have any questions on that, refer back to that guide, because it's got all of the information for you that you need to know in terms of those cutoffs and that sort of thing. So just make sure you're, when you do have questions, it's always listed in there, even if you don't think that it is. Yeah, see there it shows swim cutoff, bike cutoff, and run cutoffs.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, there was just one question. I just want to make sure it was asked, just in case it was not heard. I'm not sure when it came in. But do the folks going out and back share one street, 2 lanes on the highway? That was one of the questions, and if you covered that and I missed it, I'm sorry.
Each direction always gets their own lane. So what we do in terms of the highway, it's a split highway, so it's basically 4 lanes. So we do north and southbound traffic on one half of that, and then we have cyclists on the other half. So we have, cyclists going northbound in a southbound lane, basically, and athletes coming southbound in the slow lane of that southbound side. So we've got all the athletes on the southbound lanes, but on different sides of the road, and then all the cars on the northbound lanes. Does that answer that question?
I think that answers it, and John, you can let us know if it didn't. But another just comment on the bike, it's a full car lane, and as you all, of course, know, the rules of triathlon, there's no drafting and there's no blocking, so you should be in a single file. So there should be plenty of room on the course. Obviously, there's people overtaking and passing, and as Judy said, it does get to be a crowded course, but it should be plenty of room on the roads. But also, and Judy, it's essentially, there'll be cones set up along the lane to divide it, so that there's a very clear division of who's going which way.
Yeah, so most of the course, that's accurate. The only place that we don't have those cone lines is on the Beeline Highway. So everywhere else, you'll know where your lane is based on cones. Once you get to the highway, those white lines in the middle are your divider. So we haven't traditionally put cones on the highway there for that reason. So just keep that in mind, that when you're going in either direction, to stay on your half of the road, the way that the cones will direct you to which side of the road that you're supposed to be on, but they're not necessarily going to go all the way up that 15-mile stretch of highway. So something to be mindful of for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then just, is there anything as far as like the aid stations that you've noticed in the past, as far as etiquette, safety, anything as far as like what's there, and any advice for the athletes from your perspective?
Sure. All of our aid stations are set up exactly the same. So you're going to hit water, then Gatorade, then food, then Gatorade, then water. And on the bike course specifically, they're all 20-ounce bottles that should fit into any water bottle cage. If you are planning to stop or to slow down to grab something, just make sure that you're moved over as far to the right as possible and slow down, because the volunteers, when you're a moving target, need to be able to actually hand that off to you. And we've done as best we can to show them how that works on race day. But keep in mind that those volunteers are there to help you, but not ultimately responsible for you actually getting the product in your hand. So if you're concerned about actually getting something that you really think that you need between aid stations, please move over as far as you can, get what you need, stop if you need to, and then carry on. But also just communicating what you're doing to the athletes that are around you, so that somebody knows if you're slowing down or anything like that, so that again, it's a safety factor, and just trying to keep everybody from keeping the rubber side down.
Mm-hmm. Great, that's great. And there's aids. At every aid station, there's porta-johns and all the other fun stuff.
Absolutely, porta-johns. There's bike racks, so that you can actually put your bike on something, so that you can go to the bathroom if you need to do that. The other thing that I'll mention is at about mile 66 is where you'll hit your bike special needs bag, and that can have any kind of special nutrition that you might need in it. You will not get your special needs bags back, so don't put anything valuable in them, because once you've passed them, they're gone. So you'll have a chance to access that on your second and third laps only. When you pass on your first lap, they'll likely still be out there setting up, and you'll only have one chance at it. So whatever you need to do in terms of that special needs bag, if you want it on the second lap or the third lap, is completely up to you. Just know that you'll only get it from the volunteers one time.
That's great. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have. That's all I have for the bike, and as far as questions go. So again, if you have additional questions about the bike, load them up, and we'll come back and we'll circle back on questions again at the end of the webinar.
Perfect.
Cool.
So once you get back into transition, you're going to come down through the middle of the park, and there's volunteers to take your bike for you. So you don't have to re-rack your bike. They're going to take your bike for you and put it back where it belongs, where your number is on the bike rack. You're going to run through and grab your run gear bag, which is going to be a red bag, back into the change tent, and then out onto the run course. We have 13 aid stations on the run course. They're approximately all a mile apart, and give or take a tenth. And again, they'll provide all of those same things. So you'll hit water, Gatorade, food, Gatorade, and water. They'll also have a base salt station out there. So if you need some salt or electrolyte type of replacement, those will be available to you. I don't know the exact location yet. We're still trying to determine what's best, where to best put them. But that will be available to you out on the course as well. If you are an athlete who is pushing that 5:30 mark to get off your bike, it will be dark. So anybody that's out there after dark will need to wear something or have some kind of reflective gear on, whether it's a piece of tape or an article of clothing that's reflective. Just keep that in mind when you're planning your run gear. If a staff member hands you a glow stick, you are required to take that from them and to keep it with you. We do that just for safety purposes, so that we know where all the athletes are, that we can see where an athlete is, because it does get a little bit dark in areas. The path is well lit that you're running around, so there's no issues with tripping or anything like that, but just for your safety, please make sure that you have something that's reflective and that you can be seen with. Again, here in November at 5:30, it's pretty much dark already, so for a lot of you, I would imagine you're going to be finishing in that type of daylight or lack thereof at that point. So plan accordingly there. It's 2 loops, so on the beginning of your second loop is where you're going to hit your run special needs bags. Again, you're only able to access it that one time, and it's just right outside of transition, so it's pretty much as soon as you start that second lap, you'll hit that run special needs area. Again, these will not be returned to you this year, so please don't put anything valuable in there. Make sure that it's only things, like if you're going to put a pair of socks in there, you're not going to get your socks back. So just keep in mind of what you put in that, whether it's special nutrition or anything that you think that you might need out on the course. That's what that Run Special Needs bag is for. So you'll run past that, just past mile 13, and then head back out onto your second lap. The run is super great in the sense that you're going to run past spectators galore, especially on the south side of the lake, where we have our whole Tri-Club Village set up, as well as just a really broad area where spectators can view the course and to cheer you on. And I know that Smile Train has, their tent is right there on the run course, so you'll know where all your family and friends are going to be cheering you on that run course. And they'll technically pass you, I believe, 4 times on the run course. And the other nice thing is that they're going to have a lot of timing mats, and so you can let your family and friends know that they can track you online at Ironman.com, and they're going to have a lot of splits out there. So they're going to know where you're at and how long it's taking you to get there, and be able to be right at the finish line when you get there. We do have an intermediate cutoff at 9 o'clock at the start of the first lap. So if you haven't started that second lap, I think I said that wrong. The start of the second lap is when that first cutoff is at 9 o'clock. So if you haven't gotten to that point, we'll have to stop you there. And then a second intermediate cutoff at 10:30 on the north side of the lake at mile 20. So keep those in mind. Again, it's in your athlete guide. It has all that information as to when those cutoffs are. And I don't think I'm going to be stopping any of this crew, but just know that we're out there, and for your safety and for all of the permitting that we have to do in order to get the roads closed and that sort of thing, we have to stay pretty dialed in with when those cutoffs are. And then it's the finish line, and it's Party Central with lots of high energy, very fast paced. You'll have athlete food, you'll have massage available to you, and there'll also be a gathering area for your family and friends. And we have it set up a little bit differently this year for the finish line, in that there's a big ball field right next to the finish line, and that will actually become a gathering area for your family and friends. So we'll have a lot of signage out there to tell them how to get into that area to see you, but we think it's going to be a really nice change and a nice way for family and friends to be able to meet up after the race. You are required Sunday night to pick up your gear bags and your bicycle. Again, in your registration packets, you're going to get a ticket that has your athlete number, and it's called a bike checkout ticket. So if for some reason you want a family member or a friend to pick up your bike or bags from them, you'll need to give that ticket to them before the start of the race. And that would give them permission to go in and get that stuff for you. But we encourage everybody to get their stuff out that night so that you can account for it, and so that we're sure it doesn't get lost in the shuffle of us cleaning up. Any questions on that?
I think we got a lot of great answers. You're very thorough. I feel like you've done this before.
Maybe one.
Well, there's a couple. So if you can talk about, I don't think you hit on it, people, family and friends being able to give things to athletes on the run course.
Yeah, that's not allowed.
Yep.
So that's considered outside assistance. If your family member is giving you something, if you're just getting rid of your sunglasses or a shirt and you're just throwing it to the side where your family member happens to be, then that's okay, but you cannot receive anything from a family member. So giving something to them is okay, receiving something from them is not.
Great.
There was a question about, and Judy, maybe you can answer this, on both of the special needs sections, on the bike and the run. Can you talk about how it's set up, and as a rider or a runner approaches, what is kind of similar to the aid stations? What's a good protocol or etiquette based on your experience with your volunteers?
Sure. So we have volunteers that are at both bike and run special needs to help hand you your bag, and it's going to be a little bit different for the bike than it is for the run. So on the bike, everything is set up, well, for both of them, everything is set up by your athlete bib number. And so when you're out there, they will have it marked so that you can see as you're approaching bike special needs kind of an indicator of where your bike bag will be or your special needs bag will be. So just kind of look for that. Know that if you're 1200, then obviously if you're at 600, you have a little bit further to go. So you'll be able to see those bags on the side of the road without any problem. And then they in theory should have all of those marked out so that you can see when you're approaching that area where your bag is. So they're going to, race morning, you're going to take your special needs bag and put it in these big canvas bags, and then they're going to take those bags out onto the course for you, and then per your number, they're going to line up all of those bags, just like we do for your gear and run check bags. So everything is done by number, everything is categorized, and then when you do the run special needs, there's going to be volunteers with megaphones that will call out your race number, and then another volunteer will grab your bag and hand it to you as you're running past. So just, it's all based on your athlete number. So if you're planning to grab your special needs bag either on the bike or the run, again, just like an aid station, you're going to want to move over to the right. Make sure you can call out your number so that it makes it easier for the volunteers to help you, or just have an idea of where you're at in the mix of numbers and be able to slow down and grab your bag as you want it.
I had another good question from one of our athletes. When does their time start? Does it start when they cross over a mat on land, or once the gun goes off?
No, your time starts when you cross the timing mat, which is going to be right at the top of the stairs. So it'll be very well marked as to where that swim start actually is happening. So you're going to go under a swim arch in order to get into the holding corral, and then your time won't actually start until you start. So as soon as you start on those stairs, that's when your time is going to start, because we can't put timing mats in the water, unfortunately. They don't float very well.
Just trying to scan through the questions. You guys, if you have more questions or we didn't answer one of your questions, feel free to chat us and we'll get to them. Earl, do you see any?
I don't see any, but I wanted to ask a couple of really quick logistics questions that you may be able to answer better than anyone. Race morning, like I know that for Smile Train, a lot of folks are staying in a hotel that's walking distance from the start, but if people are driving in or they have spectators driving in, do you have any advice?
Yeah, so if they're there before 7 a.m., parking is free in the U.S. Airways garage, which is right there at the corner of Rio Salado and Ash. Specific instructions on that particular thing are in the athlete guide with how they would access that parking garage with road closures. So anything before 7 o'clock is free. All of the city streets are paid parking, so if somebody decides to park on the street, those are all metered regardless of the day of the week and regardless of if you're Ironman or not. So it's not uncommon for the ticketing police to come around and start giving tickets for people who haven't paid their meter. So please keep that in mind when parking. If anybody's coming after 7 o'clock, it's $5 to park in that same parking garage. There's also a big dirt lot that's just west of the Tempe Center for the Arts, which is about a quarter of a mile from transition. So they can always park out there and then walk to the park.
Okay. Is it the same kind of rule in effect on Friday and Saturday as people are coming in?
No. So Friday and Saturday, we don't have any paid, any free parking that's available in the parking garages or anything. The dirt lot is always available, but that would end up being metered parking in the city streets.
Okay. All right. That's
there's several parking garages in downtown Tempe, but the athletes will be responsible for paying for that.
Okay. Two quick questions that did also just come through, basically regarding the swim. In the wonderful world of social media, there's always someone who will tell you that the water is unswimmable. As the race director, can you tell us what the story is and how you guys
Sure.
make sure
I
that
love
it
these
is?
kinds of stories.
I know, yeah, I'm sure.
We learn all sorts of things about our race through social media. So the reality of the swim is that it is a man-made lake. It's not crystal clear. However, we do go through a very, very thorough water testing protocol and process through the city of Tempe prior to the race happening. And all of those results come back to us, and we make sure that they are up to the safety standards of human contact in the water. We've never had a problem at our particular event with any of that. If the water was unsafe, they would cancel the swim portion of it. Again, we've never had a problem, and unless we have, 6 inches of rain, the water is safe to swim in, and you shouldn't have any problems.
And I'll just chime in there, like, being a coach, like this is a comment at every race, no matter where you are, about water, whether it's the water's dirty or the water is whatnot. And I've been at races where Ironman has canceled the swim, so I'm pretty confident that if you're going to swim, it's safe to swim. I can say that. On the same lines of water, there was a question about a sense of, with the rolling start in the Tempe Town Lake. Now, this is a little bit different than previous years, but what is the crowd like? Is it 100 bodies going in the water at a time? Is it single file, one at a time? What's kind of like the expected as I'm going into lake? What's my expectation, or what do I think I'm going to run into?
Sure. So those swim stairs are, as you're going down into the water, it basically is sectioned off into 8 sections, and we'll be putting athletes into the water on all 8 of those sections. So we could be putting anywhere from 20 to 30 people every 10 seconds, just kind of depends on how fast we can get people moving. We anticipate 150 to 200 people per minute getting through there. So it will be something that we're yelling and we're encouraging athletes to get in the water to start. Once you get to that timing, Matt, there's no hanging out on the stairs and adjusting goggles. You're race ready, you're ready to go. So just know that when you hit those stairs, your time does start, and if you need to adjust goggles or something, get in the water and move out of the way. You won't be able to hang out on the stairs. We're going to, make people move when they get to that point, because we have, again, it goes to our time cutoffs. We need to make sure that we can get everybody into the water, within the time frame that we've allotted, so that everybody has a chance to get through that swim with that 2-hour and 20-minute cutoff.
So the advice is, once you're in that line, it's go time, folks. So don't be sitting there thinking too much, because if you're 200th on the steps, there's 2,000 people walking in right behind you. So keep moving. Yeah. So be ready for it. And if anybody needs to talk, we'll talk like at the practice swim a little more about strategies, and in person, kind of looking at the lake and how to manage it. I'll be there, and Sarah will be there as well, and we can talk through that stuff.
Absolutely.
A question about the run course, or actually about base salt. Now, base salt is actually was on the course last year. It's on the course again. Is it on the bike and the run? Is it just at the aid stations? There's just a question about how that is.
Just on the run. Okay. It's just on the run, and it will be close to an aid station, but not right at an aid station. And the reason for that is that they are providing you samples in these little plastic containers that we would really, really love for you to either drop at an aid station in a trash can, or keep with you and not just throw away at your disposal somewhere out on the course, because we end up cleaning those up, and it's a process. So they're going to be located right before an aid station. You can drop your empty container at the aid station and then get your fluids and everything as you're moving through the station.
And what is the penalty for littering on the course, Judy?
Disqualify. I'm just kidding. You'll read all of those kinds of rules in your athlete guide. I believe it's a 4-minute penalty for trash for the first offense. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that that's correct.
Yeah, I think that is actually correct.
We give pretty generous space for you to drop stuff before you get to the aid station as well as after the aid station. And we have 4,000 volunteers signed up as of today, so there's no shortage of volunteers out there. They're there to support you, not to pick up all your trash. So we really want to encourage you to do your part to help them help you. On that note, I do have something really cool that nobody knows about yet except for this group that I'm about to tell. So I'm going to show you, there's this little green bracelet. I don't know if you can see it. It says Ironman Arizona. And then on the back of it, and you'll have a better picture in your athlete guide, it says making a difference. So what we're doing this year is giving all of the athletes an athlete check in one of these wristbands with the intention that when somebody makes a difference to you in helping you with your week or helping you on race day, or maybe it's the day after the race, that you as an athlete would take off this bracelet and then give it to that person. Just letting them know that you've made a difference to them, or that they've made a difference to you in your journey to becoming an Ironman. We're super excited to see how this plays out at this event. It's only been done at one other event up in Canada. So keep that in mind when you get this. There's going to be information in your race packet about what the wristband is about, but just another way to acknowledge the volunteers who are out there to support you. Obviously, we can't do it without the volunteers, and so this becomes just another layer of expressing our gratitude towards them, and a really cool way for the athletes to be able to show that as well.
That's awesome.
Very cool. That's awesome. I like that. The volunteers are pretty amazing.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Let me give you one more question on the aid stations. Flat Coke, chicken broth on the run stations, is that out there right from the start, or is there a time?
So the Coke will be out there the whole time. The chicken broth usually comes when it gets dark. So the faster runners won't have chicken broth. Once the sun goes down and it starts cooling off, that's when the chicken broth comes out.
Excellent.
That's it, and it will be at every aid station.
Great.
And Judy, I have a question for you. You've been doing this for a while. As a race director, what is your best tip to these athletes?
Oh, the best,
or your favorite tip?
You know, when I have this conversation with our volunteer captains, I always tell them to find the best place where they can use a real toilet. Doesn't really work as for the athlete side of things. So I would say that my best piece of advice is to race smart. You've trained and trained and trained. You're in the final stages of your training. Trust your training and really just enjoy the experience. You only get one first Ironman, and I remember mine so vividly, and I don't remember as vividly the second one. So just know that going into it, whether it's your first one or your fifth one or your 100th one, that there's something so unique and special about getting to the finish line. And if you just think about how that day is completely catered to you with volunteers and aid stations and all the staff, everybody who's there to support you, and most importantly, your family and friends that have put up with you training for a year. It really is just a really amazing day if you allow it to. Don't let a flat tire get you down. Don't let, you know, if you drop a water bottle on the bike, don't worry about it. Don't sweat the small stuff. Just take it all in, you know, mile by mile, minute by minute, and you're going to have an awesome experience no matter if you're a 9-hour finisher or a 17-hour finisher. So it's a great race, and just enjoy the journey. I think that that's really at the end of it, the take home is like, did you allow yourself to have a good experience?
I like it. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm inspired. I'm ready to race.
Yay! I'm ready.
I'm
Almost.
sure you are.
Almost.
Well, Earl, I don't know if you want to wrap or you want me to wrap, or.
I'll give you my quick wrap, and I think that you're a better sign off. But I would say that, you know, this was awesome, and Judy, like I said, this is a pretty amazing opportunity to talk to you. And as I say to the athletes in the last 2 weeks, I'm keeping everybody focused and trying to get everybody to just relax and enjoy it. And I wish you a relatively relaxed, and I hope you enjoy the last 2 weeks, because your prep for this event probably is way more than even we do. So good luck with the next 2 weeks, and thank you again for your time today.
No problem. Happy to do it.
Yep, and thanks again from Smile Train and all of our athletes. I think this year more so than last year, we have I would say probably about 70% of our athletes are first timers. So we have 130 athletes that will be out there, and they're just about at 600,000 right now, and they're pretty much on target to go over 800,000. So
that's awesome.
Really
incredible.
Congrats
to all of you guys. That's a huge huge marker for sure.
Yep. So thank you so much for this partnership. We've raised just over 2 million with the partnership with Ironman Arizona. So
Awesome.
It's really incredible. So thank you for all of this, and we're looking forward to seeing you out there in Arizona.
Yes, before you know it.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Judy.
You're very welcome. Have a good evening.
You too.
Whatever time it is.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.